Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Thankful to have you here. Today is Tuesday, October the 10th, 2023. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel that you're watching us on this morning if you'd like to get updates when we go live. Every Monday through Friday from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, the Wake Up America show brings you the best in economic freedom and personal liberty. All right, let's get this show started. The second day in of coverage of the conflict in the Middle East. Israel is launching airstrikes as a retaliation against the terror attacks in southern Israel. We're going to be talking about that one today. We've also got some interesting other topics as well. As usual, I will add this caveat that I am not an expert on Middle Eastern politics, and so I have gone to the well to grab information from people who are my betters, people who are way more intelligent than me on these kinds of issues, to share with you their thoughts today. I'm going to be sharing with you today new guest. Well, actually, I think he's been on before. If you've heard of the Pew Pew Jew, Yehuda Remer. Yesterday, Ben Shapiro was trending online when people were accusing him of dual loyalty, the idea that he's for Israel first before he's for America first. This is an interesting question for American Jews. I'm going to speak to Yehuda Remer about that this morning. At 7:30 a.m., we're going to talk about America first. What should the role of the United States be in this conflict, if any at all, and whether or not this means World War III. We're going to talk about that this morning. I've also got some interesting video clips from presidential candidates Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy. Specifically, Ramaswamy spoke to Tucker Carlson last night about the possibility of war with Iran, and I've got that clip for you. We're going to talk about that and discuss it. But speaking of people who are smarter than me, I've pulled a couple of clips of Milton Friedman talking about Israel and the Jewish state, specifically his thoughts about the economic policies of Israel, which might help to shape our discussion on this today. Like I said, people who are smarter than me. Yesterday, I played clips from objectivist philosopher Ayn Rand and her take on the situation. And to sum it up, she argued that it was wiser to support Israel because she believed that they were the advanced technological civilization. And of course, I got people stirred up. I wonder what your thoughts are on this topic. Later day, during the show is great, especially if there's breaking news or something that you think that I might have missed. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Again, you can text the show and let us know what's on your mind. Weigh in with your thoughts on the news of the day at 573-319-1586. I do have to apologize to Wood Hippie yesterday because I told him I was going to be able to get him on, but then things were just flying around like crazy, so I wasn't able to get him on the show. But I did call him afterwards and got an earful from his thoughts on the situation. I'd love to hear from you again at 573-319-1586. Camelia Peterson's going to join us at 8 o'clock. I'm looking forward to talking to her and lighten things up a little bit. A dark topic, after all. About Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running as an independent. Oh, yeah. I wasn't a big fan of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. until today. And the word on the street, the scuttlebutt for a while, was that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was going to run for president of the United States on the Libertarian Party's ticket. which is honestly the only way he gets on the ballot in all 50 states. So, what this means is, well, a couple of things. One, he's definitely not going to get on the ballot in all 50 states. And two, the states that he does get on the ballot on, just remember he was polling in double digits in the Democratic primary. So, if any, I know, I mean, here's the thing. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was polling in double digits in the Democratic primary. Trump supporters are not going to go to Robert F. Kennedy unless it's really just all about the vaccine for them. And I know for some of them there are, but I really think that the sort of the angry, at Donald Trump for being pro-vaccine people is more of a angry online thing than an in real life thing. Trump, they're not going to vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's a very niche internet thing, and I really see like the problem is that for people like us, you and I, probably if you're watching us on Rumble, you're probably very technologically advanced. That we are the technologically advanced society. We are not the terrorists. Then you probably have the same kind of confirmation biases that we all have when we live our life perpetually online. We think that everybody else out in normie land is like us, but they're really not. So I don't see Trump supporters, large amounts of Trump supporters voting for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me 100% of the time talking about Israel and the war with Hamas, but we are going to get to that in just a moment. I do have some clips of things you should not do in a real fight and things that you should do in a real fight. I've got a couple of street fight videos, and as a martial artist, I always like to show you guys some martial arts videos and talk to you a little bit about self-defense. At 8:35 this morning, I'd like to speak to Jon Miltimore more about libertarian foreign policy conundrums, because whenever foreign policy happens, the foreign policy crises emerge around the world. Like the cringe from the liberty movement. Every single day is cringe. It's like there's a strong hippie undercurrent in the libertarian movement, and I get that, and it's fine, like peace, love, war. Nobody wants war, man. But like you got to have some kind of defense strategy, right? So like I like to think about individual strategy and then scale it up from there to national defense strategy. What would you do? What would you do? And I understand. I think that probably one of the major reasons why Americans don't elect libertarians is because I feel like the American people, one, feel like libertarians blame the United States for every problem around the world, which I think for a long time I used to defend many libertarian figures against those accusations. But now, after having been around for 15 years in the liberty movement, I actually agree with that point. I do think that the default position for many libertarians is to blame America first for everything, which is not to say that America doesn't have its dirty finger in the pot around the world, right? But that is always the default position for some libertarians. Before they even analyze it, it's, oh, how can I blame the United States for this, right? Like you literally have the mindset of the terrorists, okay? And then two, I think that Americans don't because who wants to be told if that were true, and you're gonna tell voters that, right? Bad idea, right? And then two, they don't trust that a libertarian would have a foreign policy that would actually defend the United States. Like, why would you elect someone in a position of power who tells you, yeah, we're going to disarm? Well, you can have your AR-15, though, in case we get invaded by Hamas or whatever, but you can have your AR-15, right? Or we'll give you the full auto machine gun, and oh, yeah, the untrained citizen is going to have to repel the attack from a first world nation like China and Russia. It just doesn't make sense. You got to have a better, stronger, broader, thicker, robust, more developed foreign policy, or you're just never going to be taken seriously. There it is. There it is. And I'm a pariah amongst libertarians, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. I gave up caring about what libertarians think about me a long time ago. Stephanie and I were actually talking about this last night. For those of you who don't know Stephanie, my wife, we're talking about foreign policy and talking about libertarians caring about what you think. She's like, yeah, it's interesting. You see all these libertarians are kind of just going down the same old tropes, online. And she's like, and you're kind of just taking a different tack from this and stuff, right? And I've, by the way, haven't advocated for American interventionism at all whatsoever. So in my mind, my libertarian bona fides are perfectly in line. However, right, when placing to the other issue, I feel as if I'm sort of forging a new path for libertarians, like my own branch of libertarianism, if you will, which is a libertarianism that is not pacifist, that actually believes that "don't tread on me" means what it says. We'll talk about that a little bit later with Jon Miltimore. He's the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, a fellow liberty lover like myself. Liberty lover. He'll be joining us this morning at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Love to hear from you guys on this. One listener just texted in, said, what about Americans? They are Christian faith. The Bible tells us the Jews come first, then the Gentile. So every American Christian should support Israel. We will be judged. Also, who blesses Jerusalem will be blessed, and every Christian interest to bless Jerusalem. Well, that's, I don't know how to answer something like that. I am not of your particular faith, so I'll just let you have that. One listener did text in on the Kennedy thing, says Kennedy will pull a lot of previous Trump voters who are sick of Trump, but Kennedy also showed his true colors with his willingness to support Israel at all costs. What happened to being anti-war and bringing peace? I'm done with politics, never voting again. That's a... Remember, the price of not getting involved is being ruled by your inferiors. Somebody sent me a message of an animated Pixar movie of Bill Clinton on the Lolita Express there. 26 trips to Epstein Island. Oh my God. Andy Opperman, can we please stay on topic? Anyways, like I said, you can text the show at 573-319-1586. Again, you can always text the show and let us know what's on your mind at 573-319-1586. All right. Well, I'm being very careful to try not to show you what I think might be just propaganda videos. Sometimes that might be unavoidable, but certain videos from this conflict I will show you. Some of them are quite graphic, just to give you a heads up, and others I think that just paint a picture of what's at stake here and the human cost of war. Take a look and a listen at this latest clip. This is a little girl talking about her sister who was just murdered by Hamas and asking if she will ever come back. Are you crying? It didn't happen. I wanted her to stay alive. There is no chance she will come back? Question mark. There is no chance? Mother, no.
Relax. No, look. His sister.
My sister died.
Relax. Live to God. What?
Kidnappers say she went to heaven. Who was kidnapped and had their sister executed in front of them. Now, the question of what needs to be done is already being hotly debated in Washington, D.C. Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky has already somehow come out of a coma to write this piece in the Wall Street Journal, saying that here are the 4 steps that he thinks that the United States should take as a retaliation to these strikes. He says that the civilized world must impose real costs on terrorists and those who support or condone them. There should be no haven for Iran's agents of death. The West should reimpose extensive multilateral sanctions on Tehran and deny Iranian planes overflight rights, impound the shipping vessels Iran uses to circumvent sanctions, close Iranian banks with access to the West, and cease the Iranian operations of European businesses. Treat Iranian officials like pariahs and sink Iranian naval boats that threaten international shipping. That's quite a lot. But what should we hear? Presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy spoke last night to Tucker Carlson, and he has a little bit of a different take on it. Take a listen to this.
Alone among candidates running for the Republican nomination for president, Vivek Ramaswamy dared to suggest that actually...
Excuse me, hold on. I should actually push the button there so you can see
alone among candidates running for the Republican nomination for president, Vivek Ramaswamy dared to suggest that actually going to war with Iran might not be in America's national interest. And for saying that, Mike Pence immediately denounced him as gutless and unpatriotic or something. But we thought it might be worth hearing more. Vivek Ramaswamy joins us now. Vivek, thanks so much for coming on. So if I'm reading this correctly, you suggested, while offering what seemed like real sympathy to the Israeli people, and to the many murdered there 2 days ago, you noted that maybe it's not in America's best long-term interest to declare war on Iran. Is that what you said?
I actually said this long before this crisis when people were thinking clear-headedly. And I just want to say a couple of things that are obvious but important, Tucker. I mean, what happened against Israel, you said it, I believe it. It is barbaric, it is medieval, it is wrong. And Israel as a nation absolutely has the right to self-defense, to its own national existence. And I think they should have our moral and diplomatic support as an ally. But there's one element of this that nobody's talking about. What the hell went wrong with U.S. and Israeli intelligence and the Israeli defense?
I'll pause for just a moment because I think it's important to note that he said moral and diplomatic support. He did not say, and Vivek Ramaswamy very carefully chooses the words that he says. And we're talking about someone that is, I think, probably in the top 3 list of Donald Trump's vice presidential candidates, at least I hope. But he did not say financial support. And Vivek, someone who chooses his words very carefully, could have easily stated financial or military support. He did not. He said diplomatic support and moral support. Because again, what is the difference between an America First candidate and a typical neoconservative Nikki Haley style candidate or Mike Pence style candidate? The difference is more than just moral and diplomatic support. It's financial and military support, right?
That allowed this to happen. Everybody seems to be punting that as a question for later. I think it's a question for now if you're Israel. I mean, look, I think that Nikki Haley, I disagree with you a little bit there. I don't think she's a child. I think that she is somebody who is, like many politicians, in a position to get wealthier from war. Look at the military contracting business and otherwise. But put that.
Damn. Listen, I mean, that's a direct accusation right there. Finally. Isn't it nice to see candidates? And even if you think Vivek Ramaswamy is controlled by the WEF and George Soros or whatever, stuff like that, understand, I like the guy. That takes guts, okay? That you did not see Republican politicians saying things like that. Like, that could have come out of the mouth of Congressman Ron Paul running for president in 2008 or 2012, accusing them of being war profiteers and warmongers. Let's give it up for Vivek. Even if you don't like the guy, you can't disagree with that, can you? John in KC says he still doesn't trust Vivek. I get it. I understand. But I kind of hope the guy ends up being Trump's VP.
That's one side. The message that I would send would be very different. Get to the bottom of what allowed this gaping hole of intelligence and defense to even happen before feeding that same beast. If a doctor told you his job was to keep you from getting cancer and then you got that cancer, don't go trust that same doctor to remove your tumor. They don't let airplanes, when they crash, the pilots or the people who crash the airplane, that airliner is not the one who reviews the black box. And so I think those answers have to come now. That's not a question.
See, that is an intelligent mind. I mean, give it up for Vivek because, I mean, who just knows that kind of stuff? Grover Bentley over in the live stream. Good morning, Grover says, I think Americans should worry about Americans. We have enough issues going on with our country. SM77 agrees with him. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Do us a favor, click like on the stream and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing this morning. I've got lots of great interviews, guests, and topics for you as well. The content that I have for you, absolutely supreme. We're going to actually hear from Milton Friedman a little bit later, the ghost of Milton Friedman, talking about his thoughts on the economic situation in Israel and his thoughts about where they're at compared to the United States, which his comparison of Israel and the United States was fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. Again, text the show. Let us know at 573-319-1586. I don't have time to play the entire Tucker Carlson clip. I do want to play a little bit more of it so you can hear what Tucker Carlson was articulating, which I think Tucker really advocated for the America First position on this the best. And of all the things that America First, or at least the MAGA movement, have advanced, all of the policies and ideas that Donald Trump advanced, what I thought Donald Trump was the strongest on, although, not perfect, people can nitpick here and there, was the foreign policy. I like America First. I like what Donald Trump advocated for.
From now on, it's going to be America first, okay? America first.
Absolutely. So I want to get back to Tucker Carlson, but let's hear what Ron DeSantis had to say when it came to the situation with Israel and Hamas. Take a listen to this.
Message or thoughts for the Palestinian citizens who don't support Hamas and are going to be part of this crossfire?
Well, look, Israel has said to people, they've telegraphed what they're doing, they've given the warning to leave, and people should heed that. Hamas is telling them to stay. Hamas wants them to be basically roadkill. They're using them as human shields, and that's what they've done. That's been a standard tactic, technique, and procedure for Hamas for a long time. I do think in the broader context, I think it's important that people from all persuasions and all religious faiths speak out and say what Hamas did was wrong. Be very clear that that's not something that you support. We should get everybody united behind the fact that this type of barbaric activity has no place in a civilized world. We're not going to sit there. They went in, they would film on the victim's phone the execution of the victim, and then they would use the phone to post that execution on social media. So then you have the families that are following these people on social media. They're seeing this, and they're seeing their loved one be executed.
Yeah, there was actually one situation where the terrorists, when they kidnapped one of the people at the dance festival, they actually used that person's phone to call the parents to mock them, and then hung up. So he's right about that. But I'm going to let him finish, and then I want to critique what he's saying.
This is really sick stuff. So I hope that there's folks, both Palestinian Arabs and in the broader Middle East, that will speak out against Hamas. I think, unfortunately, what we've seen is Hamas is, they're really representative of a lot of poison that circulated in that region for many, many decades. You talk about, people used to talk about the two-state solution. They never wanted a two-state solution. What they want is no Jewish state. That's been their whole desire all the way from the late 1940s to the present. They're not out there to just have some type of agreement where you can broker and people can live side by side. They do not want Jews in the region at all.
Okay, now I could be wrong, and what DeSantis is saying here is correct to a large extent, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't really get that same sense of America first foreign policy from Ron DeSantis that I get from Vivek Ramaswamy and from Donald Trump. Am I wrong about this one? Maybe there's something that I've missed, with all of the news coming at us from every angle on all this story. Maybe Ron DeSantis has come out and he said that I agree that we don't need to be sending financial and military aid to the state of Israel, which is the America first position, right? As Vivek Ramaswamy has stated in this clip that I played just a moment earlier, we should have diplomatic support and we should have moral support, but he didn't say financial or military support. Which isn't to say that financial and military support isn't going to happen anyway. I even saw Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, for example, talking this morning about responding to Marco Rubio, who was talking about how we've basically set Israel up with an auto pay system, right? So monthly subscribe to Israel, if you will. Apparently, the United States has a monthly subscription to Israel. Right? Which isn't to say that you can't have moral support for Israel. And listen, if American Jews want to support the state of Israel, they should absolutely have the right to do so. If they want to do so with their finances, or with their time, or their blood or energy, that's fine. There are plenty of Americans who believe in the Ukrainian military's right to defend themselves against Russian aggression. And plenty of those Americans have gone over to Ukraine to fight for the Ukrainian cause. You know what? God bless them. Personally, I'm for America first. I morally support Israel. I think we should diplomatically support Israel, but I don't think that the United States should be getting involved in another conflict in the Middle East. We just got done with 2 conflicts in the Middle East, and we're still in the middle of that conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Frankly, I'm sick and tired of it. I think it's time for a little bit more America first. And it's things like these that make this libertarian think that a lot of this shit wouldn't be happening under Donald Trump. It's things like this that make me think that we would be better off in the next election if we can get Donald Trump to be president of the United States again. Am I wrong? Am I right? Are we booing me or what? Are you booing me? I'm right. Now, again, take this from someone, and I know for many of you, 1,300 people watching us this morning, thank you for joining us here. For many of you, this may be the first time that you met me. You may not know who I am at all. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm the host of the Wake Up America show you're watching now. I'd love it if I could earn your like or your subscribe to this channel. I appreciate that. I'm a former Libertarian Party presidential candidate. In 2016, I ran for president of the United States, ironically enough, against Donald Trump and against Hillary Clinton. In 2020, I changed my mind on Donald Trump because I saw how he governed and I saw it as better than what we'd had before. And I switched my vote to Donald Trump in 2020. And I'm willing to vote for him again in 2024. I haven't made a decision about who I'm endorsing yet in the 2024 primary. I will say that I would be happy with any of the top contenders at the moment that we have, meaning the top three at this point. I guess we have Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, sort of in a 1-2-3, with the second places and third places being way far behind Donald Trump. But I do like the idea of seeing Vivek Ramaswamy being the potential vice presidential candidate because he seems competent, right? When he chooses his words carefully
before this
here.
crisis, when people were thinking clear-headedly, and I just want to say a couple of things that are obvious but important, Tucker. I mean, what happened against Israel? You said it, I believe it. It is barbaric, it is medieval, it is wrong, and Israel as a nation absolutely has the right to self-defense, to its own national existence. And I think they should have our moral and diplomatic support as an ally.
There it is, right? They should have our moral and diplomatic support as our ally. And that is the key word right there. Okay, so here's what I've got for you. Okay, I've got some exciting stuff left to go. Yehuda Remer, the Pew Pew Jew, is going to weigh in on this question of America first with Jews and the accusations of Ben Shapiro of dual loyalty. I've got an Anthony Rogers comedy segment for you as well. Lots of great stuff left to go. Don't leave. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Favorite comedian Anthony Rogers. Thanks for watching Wake Up America with Austin Peterson. Today we're going to discuss something close to our heart. Okay, it's just this Hunter Biden's press coverage, right? Like this guy, literally before the 2020 election, was caught hooking up with children, doing cocaine, crack, taping it, documenting it. And they try to portray him like he's like Charlie Sheen in the press or something like that. Like, oh, he's just such a rock star. He's just doing drugs and being a degenerate, like a bunch of these people like daydream about, like young people, I guess, daydream about. But I just want to say, like, this guy's not cool. Like, I mean, the money he's using is all stolen, really. I mean, is from like the Ukrainian deals to the Chinese deals to. I think it's reported he stole from like someone in his family's college fund or something. So this guy isn't like this like super cool like party guy, like, oh, I'm just like James Bond on cocaine or something. He's a loser. He's just and a pedophile. And like a lot of people were sharing the pictures of him with children, and they were getting in trouble for sharing child pornography. But the guy in the picture hooking up with the kids, Hunter Biden, was not. And then, I mean, and that has a lot to do with the whole like laptop from hell and the iPhone thing. But they're making it look like this iPhone and laptop thing was literally just he's just partying with pretty girls and doing this. I'm like, yeah, he definitely paid attractive women to have sex with him too. But a lot of them were kids. There's a lot of pictures of that. And like it was like one of Obama's daughters was in there. There's a credit card with her name on it in there. Credit card covered in coke on the side. Well, he has her like in front of him naked as well. There's a lot of evidence of this, and it came out, and they've been suppressing it. I just want you to remember that. Watch the Anthony Rogers show every day. Thank you. Bye.
Welcome to Snow Goose Lodge in Jamestown, Kansas, your home away from home. Choose the comfort and privacy of our individual rooms, each equipped with its very own locking door and en-suite facilities. Or bring the whole family and make memories in our communal space. Snuggle up on our plush recliners or share a meal around the dining table that comfortably seats 8. Our kitchen is armed with everything you need, from a microwave to a full-size fridge. For a bird's eye view, book the Eagle's Nest. Enjoy the privacy, storage space, and its very own own toilet and shower. For just $450 a night, reserve the entire lodge. Perfect for reunions or retreats, accommodating up to 8 guests. And remember, Snow Goose Lodge is a haven for kids and dogs alike, so bring the whole family. Book your stay now and get 20% off your first booking using the code WAKEUP. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. We're glad and grateful to have you here. Do us a favor. Lots of people watching this morning, 1,500. Glad to have you here. Click like and subscribe to the channel so you can get updates when we go live. Every Monday through Friday, the Wake Up America show streams live from 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a great way to start your day. If you believe in the principles of economic freedom and personal liberty, this is the place to be. We'll be glad to have you come back and join us again tomorrow. Israel versus Hamas. But let's look a little bit closer to home. The question of America first and people making accusations of dual loyalty to Jews or Palestinians here in the United States. Let's talk about these questions with someone who knows. Yehuda Remer, usually known as the Pew Pew Jew, joining us here this morning. He and I have had even some private conversations one-on-one about this topic. He's joining us live right now. Good morning, Yehuda. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back.
Yeah, appreciate having you here, Yehuda. It's I'm not an expert on Middle Eastern affairs, and typically I like to avoid foreign policy topics because if you're not an expert on things like this, it's easy to get it wrong. So I bring people like you who are smarter than me on to help me understand these kinds of things. But my first question for you, I guess, should be a broader, obvious one here. And what was your reaction to the brutal strikes by Hamas on Israel over this past weekend?
So I was in a 2-day holiday, so I didn't really get the brunt of it until Sunday night, about 36 hours, 48 hours, something like that, after it occurred. But I will tell you, as an Orthodox Jew who has lived in Israel, who has visited there numerous times, I mean, it tore my heart out. I can understand if Palestinians want to attack the Israeli army, military base, something of a military nature. But this was just evil. I mean, there's no other word for it. And I think evil is even a underused word for this.
What could they possibly hope to accomplish in something like this? I mean, attacking military targets, people would say, oh, it's despicable, oh, it's awful. But you could say, oh, well, they're trying to accomplish some kind of a military objective, right? You could say, objectively looking at something like this, they're just trying to either expand their territory or protest against the crackdown on their civil liberties, if you will, in the Gaza Strip. But what do they hope to accomplish by murdering innocent women and children and people at dance festivals? What are they trying to do here?
I mean, it's terrorism. That's all it is. It's terrorism. There's nothing more to say about it. They don't care. They're not looking for a peaceful solution. If they were looking for a peaceful solution, I can understand hitting a military target, right, to advance their to get to that area where they're willing to talk. But this is not that. They just want to kill Jews. That's it. There's nothing more.
Now, the question here at home is one of the intervention of the United States into the conflict, and American Republicans are largely divided on this issue. The question of whether or not the United States should be supporting Israel diplomatically, morally, financially, and militarily, all 4 different questions. And earlier I played a clip from Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, who typically chooses his words very carefully. And what he articulated was that he supported Israel diplomatically and he supported them morally, but he did not say financially or militarily. What is your response to that?
Here's what I'm going to say, and I know I'll probably get a lot of hate for this, but the United States of America gives money to countless countries all over the world who dance in the street, burning American flags and yelling death to America, right? Yet we continue to give them money. We just gave $6 billion to Iran. And from all the news that I'm seeing now, right, Iran actually had a big part to do by supplying weapons with that $6 billion to the Palestinians. So we give all this money, yet the one ally that we do have in that region, the one ally who does not call for the death of Israel, is the one that everyone talks about, right? Stop giving them money, stop giving them aid. How do you respond to that, right? Like, what do you say to that?
Well, it depends, right? So, I do very much consider myself an America First libertarian Republican. I agree with Vivek. We should support Israel diplomatically and we should support them morally because I believe they have the moral high ground in the conflict with Hamas. And I've always believed that. But I can't agree with taxing American citizens to support a foreign nation, which absolutely can defend and take care of itself. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Netanyahu gave us an address in Congress, I think sometime back in like 2008 or 2010 or so, saying that he's tired of the American military dollars that are coming over there because they always come with strings attached. In many ways, we hold Israel back from accomplishing its foreign policy goals, especially when we have Democrats in power such as we do right now. How would you respond to that?
So look, I'm totally fine with not sending money to Israel. I honestly am. I do think that they are totally able to protect themselves. I don't think it's an issue. What I do think that if Israel does call on America for say you're a teenager and you have money for your first car and you just need that extra $500, so you'll turn to mom and dad and say, hey, can you guys help me? Right? Like Israel's able to do it, but if I believe because we are the only real ally that America has, you need to stand by your allies. And I'm slowly becoming libertarian, very slowly, but in this case, I think, and I'm not even talking about because I'm a Jew and I've been to Israel. That really, take that out of the picture for a second. I think if you have a strong ally, one who never really has done you wrong, and I know everyone's going to say, now they're all going to jump on me saying, "Oh yeah, well Israel bombed the
USS Liberty."
USS Liberty, thank you. Right? Like, oh yeah, I'm like, all right, good. That was like 80 years ago, 90 years ago, whatever it was. I get it. It was a huge mistake. Israel should not have done that.
You literally cannot have a discussion with an Israel hater that they do not mention the USS Liberty.
Yes, exactly. Because America's perfect and has never bombed anyone.
Exactly.
But you take all of that. Take all of that aside, that I'm an Orthodox Jew, I do think that because they are our only ally in a very hotbed region, I do think that there should be more than moral and diplomatic aid.
Okay. Well, we probably disagree with that, but I disagree with you respectfully. And I agree with your point when you say that they are our allies. Absolutely. It's not to say that they don't sometimes spy on us, but we also spy on them right back, I'm sure. But the problem that we face here is that, like you said, we do fund Israel's enemies through 10 times as much as we fund the state of Israel. The $6 billion that was sent to Iran, Donald Trump was absolutely correct that money that was sent to Iran would be used back against us. Now we see the Iranian military officials and the mullahs are coming out and they're saying, oh, we didn't have anything to do with this. But Hamas has claimed that Iran helped them to plan and to coordinate this attack. What do you believe?
I think Iran would do it. I mean, they've been calling, for the death of Israel for years, that, they would threaten nuclear war and just eradicate Israel off the face of the map, right? What do they say, from sea to sea, something like that, right? Like, I mean, they've been saying it. So would I be surprised in any way that Iran had a part of it? Not at all. I believe that they probably did supply weapons and strategic aspects to this attack.
This morning, Senator Mitch McConnell has published an article in the Wall Street Journal. He says that the civilized world must impose real costs on terrorists and those who support them. There should be no haven for Iran's agents of death. The West should reimpose extensive multilateral sanctions on Tehran and deny Iranian planes overflight rights, impound the shipping vessels Iran uses to circumvent sanctions, close Iranian banks with access to the West, and cease the Iranian operations of European businesses, treat Iranian officials like pariahs, and sink Iranian naval boats that threaten international shipping. Now, my question is going to, introduce another scenario to you here, and already a massive scenario, Yehuda. Why, like, if you're going to do these kinds of things, why are all these half measures? Why not just put a bounty, a price on the head of the Iranian mullahs? Why all of all of this dithering and quote unquote diplomacy, if you will? And all this is doing is punishing the Iranian people. I don't understand. Why don't we send Mitch McConnell over there with SEAL Team 6 himself to take them out? What are your thoughts on Mitch McConnell's proposal and then my counter proposal?
So I think that they're taking but like both parties, right? Democrat and Republican, that they're both spineless. And I think, at some point you do have to cut the head off the snake. But what they're proposing, like you said, will hurt the Iranian people. I think whether you want to do strategic attacks, send in the boys from SEAL Team 6 or Delta and, cut the heads off the snake that way, send a real message. Don't just, I don't know, sanctions, right? Because, all right, it'll hurt them for maybe a year, but let's be honest, they're going to get around it somehow.
And they always do. And then, in 6 years from now, we'll be sending another $6 billion to Iran, right? It's at some point, it's like the ancient warlords knew how to handle this kind of thing, right? What is that? I love that old Will Rogers quote where he says, "Diplomacy is the art of saying nice doggy while looking around for the nearest rock."
I never heard that. It's great.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, good morning. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're thankful and glad to have 1,800 people watching us live right now. What is going on out there? We're thankful and glad to have you here. So click that like button and subscribe to the channel to say thank you back. I'm speaking to Yehuda Remer. He is an American Jew. He is at the Pew Pew Jew over on Twitter. You can find him defending your Second Amendment rights as a God-given American. We're glad to have him here, and I'm your host, Austin Peterson. This is the Wake Up America show every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. Come back and join us. Y'all come back now, yeah? Yehuda, last topic here. Ben Shapiro is frequently accused of dual loyalty because of his overt support of the nation of Israel. As a matter of fact, some people argue that he supports Israel first before being an American. That's probably a fairly common accusation against American Jews, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I definitely can. I've seen that numerous times.
And how do you respond to something like that?
I mean, it's interesting. It's a tough question, right? Because I bleed red, white, and blue. I was born here. I love America. I don't have plans of ever leaving. I don't plan on moving to Israel. To me, there's a lot of change that needs to happen before I would consider moving to Israel. But Israel's our homeland, right? Israel's the Jewish homeland. And I think that there's a lot of American Jews that believe that, but also, think the same way I do, is that there's not and I'm coming from the religious Jewish aspect, not the overall, conservative and Reform Jews. But, a lot of Jews have a problem that the state of Israel has become more of a secular state of Israel and not a Jewish religion-based state of Israel. And I think that's a big deciding factor why a lot of Jews wouldn't move there. However, that doesn't mean that they don't love Israel and they don't want to support Israel. And I think that's where that dual loyalty comes in, is that they want, and this is where I kind of disagree, kind of back to what we were saying about sending aid to Israel. I think a lot of Jewish Americans want to ensure that America backs Israel in every aspect, and that means give them money, give them everything they need. I am actually against that as a whole. I think right now sending them financial aid and help, that I kind of agree with, because they're in the war, and it's a war that has to be won, because if Israel loses this war, Israel ceases to exist.
But, I
Right?
mean, is there any chance? I mean, how could Israel lose the war against Hamas? I mean, like this, we're talking about a nuclear nation versus tribal people in a tiny strip of land. I mean, how could Israel possibly lose the war, even without American support? It doesn't make any sense, Yehuda.
Well, let's be honest. First off, you're not going to use any kind of nuclear device in your own backyard.
Sure, but I mean, the
Right,
threat,
but
the threat is there. If Iran or
no,
Lebanon
100%.
or Syria or Jordan or Egypt decided to get involved, Israel has the apocalypse now button, right? But I mean, this is a war against a terrorist group in a tiny strip of land. I mean, I know Israel doesn't want to occupy the Gaza Strip, but I mean, should the Gaza Strip even exist? I mean, wasn't it a mistake to create this in the first place?
So yes, it was. But to answer the other question is, look at what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, we can debate whether it was a good idea to go in or not. Don't care about that at the moment. But the minute we went in, you had foreign nationals from every other nation who happened to be Muslim coming into the country and fighting, right? You saw people from all walks of life who entered the country illegally or even with a visa. And within 2 days, Americans kill them, and they find the passport, if you will, on the floor, and they see what these people are coming from out of town. So you don't think the same thing will happen? I mean, we're talking about Israel is a tiny, literally a sliver surrounded by 10 billion people who want to kill them. It would just be one of those things that you will just keep on. It would end up being a 100-year war.
I think Israel is actually more militarily capable than the United States is. And this is actually from a book that I read by Thomas Sowell about how the Israelis are much more capable and willing to defend themselves than even the United States are. I actually am much more confident in the Israeli military than you are, it seems, Yehuda.
Well, no, it's not one thing. It's not that I don't think that the Israeli government can do it, but the issue is because there would the war wouldn't end, because people would just be coming in from Jordan and from Saudi Arabia and from all these other outside nations to come fight against the Jewish people, that the death toll on the American side would be I apologize. The death toll on the Israeli side would be so high that they could lose the war because they just don't have enough people.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's such a small country.
Yes, it is, but it's a powerful country, and it's a wealthy country, and I'm confident that perhaps we could debate this for hours, the intricacies of this, Yehuda. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time here. I want to give you an opportunity to plug your social media and your website. Anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I appreciate that. Well, you can follow me at the Pew Pew Jew. You can go to thepewpewjew.com. I write children's books on firearm safety, history of the Second Amendment for children, and a lot of other fun stuff. So you can reach me out there. Always
a great conversation, Yehuda. I consider you a friend and definitely a great advocate for our principles here. Thanks for standing up for our Second Amendment rights here in the United States, and I appreciate you having this open discussion with us. It was very, very fulfilling, I would say. Thank you. Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Austin. Anytime. Thank you. Follow at the Pew Pew Jew over on Twitter. What did you think of Yehuda? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's a good discussion, right? So you see the difference of opinion there, right? His argument is that the United States should be involved in this conflict more than just diplomatically and morally, as I advocate. But his argument is that the United States should be involved militarily and financially. I disagree. I agree with the more America First foreign policy, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, you can text the show night or day at 573-319-1586. Do us a favor, click that like button and subscribe to the channel and let us know what's going on in your minds. Speaking of the Jews, our friends over at Lear Capital, well, they're not Jewish, have got a great deal going on gold. Call 1-800-885-2175. These are our sponsors for the Wake Up America show. My lovely Jewish wife, Stephanie, came with a big bag of gold and silver herself. Why don't you get yourself one? No, not a Jewish wife. Well, actually, if you can. Jewish libertarian wife, very rare, very rare. So you're more likely to get gold if you call Lear Capital at 1-800-885-2175 today. Here's your incentive. $500 account credit. Give them a call, 1-800-885-2175 to get a $500 account credit now. You can get more information from our sponsors at learaustin.com on how to invest in gold, silver, gold IRAs, for example, which are still physical gold, by the way. But if you want the $500 account credit, you got to call that number, 1-800-885-2175. Again, that's 1-800-885-2175 to get that $500 account credit today. Give us a little dance.
I believe you've just recently returned from Israel, and you were a consultant to the conservative government on economic policy. Could you relate the subject of tonight's discussion here to recent events in Israel and the policies which are being followed by that conservative government?
I would be very glad to do that, because Israel is a fine example, exactly, of the false road we have been following. The Israel has been following what has been largely a policy moving towards socialism. It's much farther along that road than we are. The ideology of the leaders of Israel, from the earliest stages, was fundamentally socialist. A labor organization called Histadrut is both the largest labor organization and the largest industrial organization in Israel. And the thing that is absolutely fascinating is the extent to which you have complete disillusionment among the people of Israel with this approach and this policy. The Begin government was elected. You call it a conservative government. I don't call it a conservative government. It isn't a conservative government. I'm not a conservative. A conservative is somebody who wants to keep things the way they are. Mr. Begin wants to change things. I want to change things. Mr. Begin is a liberal in the true sense of the word. I'm a liberal in the true sense of the word. The word is now used in a distorted way. The modern liberal is liberal only with other people's money. The word liberal means of and pertaining to freedom. And I believe in freedom, and a true liberal is somebody who believes in freedom. It isn't freedom for the government to take 40% of my income out of my pocket and spend it on things we, through our political mechanism, have decided on, but nonetheless that I as an individual, you as an individual, have no control over. So I will not agree with your description of Mr. Begin or his government as conservative. They're not. They're a liberal government. And in fact, you see, the word liberal still retains its 19th century meaning in most of Europe. And if you take the parties which together make up the Begin government, a major party is a liberal party of Israel. Now, with respect to the problems, the problem has been that as a result of the socialist tendency in Israel, you now have an enormous fraction of national income in Israel being spent by the government. You have a wide range of government and quasi-government enterprises. Over half of the people in Israel, half the workers in Israel are employed by either direct or indirect governmental enterprises. You have subsidies and everywhere, for industry, for labor, for what you name it. And the result has been that you have a very great degree of dissatisfaction on the part of the public at large.
Pause for just a moment. This is, of course, Milton Friedman speaking about the economic policies of Israel. Now, let's hearken back to a couple of things. One, the discussion that I just had with Yehuda Remer, where I disagreed that American military or finances should be sent over to support Israel, but that we should support them diplomatically and we should support them morally. And private citizens can support them militarily, personally. If they want to go fight, they can, and some do. And they can also support them financially. And of course, many do. However, what Milton Friedman is saying here is it gives me pause And perhaps if we ask the question, if we are going to be financing the government of Israel, if we are going to be financing its defense, then the United States should be able to set Israeli economic policy. Am I wrong? Right? Maybe a good question I should have asked Yehuda there is, if we're going to be supporting them financially and military, shouldn't we be allowed to tell Israel what to do? Shouldn't we be allowed to have a voice in their government? Should we not, as citizens, have a voice in how they are governed? Right? This is taxation without representation. If we as American citizens are being taxed to support Israeli defense, why then do we as American citizens who are financing that defense not have a voice in the Israeli Knesset? Why do we not have an American representative in their parliament? Why do we not have a vote? And therein lies the problem that we go back to again when we talk about the problem of American intervention in this conflict, because remember when Benjamin Netanyahu came to the United States and gave a speech in front of Congress and said that he would gladly refuse American taxpayer dollars if that meant that the strings would no longer be attached, right? Because the problem, of course, is that if we pay, we demand a say. And that makes sense. Just like when it comes to the issue of school choice, for example. School choice is another perfect example of saying, hey, if our taxpayer dollars are going to be stolen from us and given to the American schools, we want to say in how that money is going to be sent. And I think that a lot of American Jews and people like a Yehuda Remer would not like that. They would say, no, we want the money, but we don't want any strings attached. Well, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. If you're taking my money and you're doing it through threat of force and you're advocating for the threat of force to take my money, I want a say in how that money is being spent. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Spicy take. I think my Jewish family is not going to like that. Hey, that's how you know I'm being honest, right? He who dares not offend cannot be honest. Who said that quote? Drop it in the comments. And we'll be back with Camelia Peterson to talk about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running as an independent on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Vast expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tee and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's revolutionary roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's patriotic perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks, just pure patriotic pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. We're glad and grateful to have you here. Today's Tuesday, the 10th of October. I had an awesome Oktoberfest last week. The only sad thing about it is that my good friend Camellia only dropped by for like an hour last week. We didn't have time to get drunk, to say stupid stuff and to do stupid stuff and then get arrested in Herman, Missouri. That's what we want to do, right? That's the annual tradition. No, he didn't. But she did only hang out for an hour. Thankfully, her daughter Felicity did a great job at her, I guess it's a forensics tournament, if you will, debate tournament, that kind of stuff. So she'll fill us in on all that. But we're going to talk to her about the real news. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. running for president as an independent. Joining us now, Camellia Peterson. Good morning, CJ. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. And, you know, the United Grand Lodge of Georgia followed me this morning, so I've got that going for me. And I'm like, I don't know, are women allowed to join the Freemasons? Is that a thing?
No, you're only allowed to join, like, there's like a woman's org or something like that.
Okay, well. No, it's good. I'm good.
Glad to have you here, CJ. It was nice seeing you at Oktoberfest. Wish we could have gotten to party a little bit more. We ended up going to the distillery, and then we had some of that blackberry whiskey. It was like the blackberry whiskey lemonade.
Oh, okay. Now, I don't know about the lemonade part now. I've had a blackberry whiskey, and that's good.
It was very, very good. Anyways, let's talk about what people care about, because they don't care about our private lives and our free time. Let's talk about that shirtless hunk behind you there. Oh, now, wait a minute. Can you just scooch over a little bit just for a moment so we can see the full background? Look at look at his ape tits hanging out there. Delicious. Luscious nipples hanging out. Donald Trump looking thick. This might be the year of the sexiest presidential candidates ever, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Right. You know, I figured this is where we are at this point in our politics. And, you know, they say that people vote for the hottest candidates anyway, right? Isn't that how we base our vote on? So, you know, by that metric, is RFK Jr. going to win?
So the news is Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was polling in double digits in the Democratic primary, has now run as an independent. He was talking about flirting with the libertarians for a little while. That's not going to happen. Kind of get us up to speed here, CJ.
Yeah, so he's, he did his flirtation with the libertarians. Interestingly enough, Vivek Ramaswamy also went to some libertarian events and things like that. So I think that's good. I don't think Trump's gone to any. He probably doesn't feel like he needs them. Might not be welcome. But no, RFK has decided to run as independent. People have been talking about that he would do that for a while now, and he has. And there are lots of, and normally this would be no big deal because there are lots of third-party candidates that are, I don't even know how many we have now that are, have filed to run. But I think the difference is that RFK has been made a bit of a splash, especially with libertarians and on the right. Says a lot of things that they like. I know that you talked earlier about how that this was kind of a niche, very online thing with RFK. I don't know, I'm not sure about maybe in the last month, but I know over the last few months as I meet with people, in real life, and a lot of older people who are really the major voting demographic, I have been surprised by how many people brought up RFK Jr. and talked about him and liked what he said. And those same people that brought him up that would talk about, what he was saying with regard to the vaccines would also point out that Trump has, doubled down on supporting the vaccines and those, and the development and those sort of things. So do I think it's going to make a difference in the general election? I don't know. I think there's a maybe that he could be a spoiler if he was polling double digits with the Democrats and there's enough unhappy people on the kind of never Trump end of things, but still won't vote for Biden. I think that the potential is that he could probably definitely cost Trump the election if Trump is at the top of the ticket in the general. And I only say that because I don't think Trump can win in the general, but I think if he does, it would be by such a narrow margin that it wouldn't be hard to upset him.
I'm kidding. But if we are looking at the ballot access question, that's going to be a problem for RFK, isn't it?
Right. That was the question that came to my mind too, was whether or not he was going to be able to pull together a campaign that can get ballot access in all of the states that he needs to. And there's a lot of that I don't fully, like the strategy part of that, I don't fully understand. But, my understanding is that they will definitely need to target some states rather than others. So I'm assuming that, he's a pretty smart guy and he'll probably figure that into the calculation.
So if RFK gets on the ballots in certain states, that's really what makes a difference, right? We're talking about like Pennsylvania and Georgia, right? He needs to be able to get on the states that matter to accomplish what we really want to accomplish, right? And help the Republicans win.
Yeah, do you think he's going to help the Republicans win? I don't think he's going to help the Republicans win. I think it will. I think it will just create some chaos in the race, but it will certainly make things more interesting. And, isn't that where we are with bread and circuses? And the most important thing about our elections is that we're entertained, right?
Right. So here's the thing. Some people are saying that he would actually take more votes from Donald Trump. How do you respond to that?
I think that might be right, although I get a lot of conflicting feedback on this because, talking about some of the polls had him in double digits with Democrats. But at the same time, some of my, left of center friends or more, left leaning friends will talk about how that they, the people that they know that were into RFK were their friends that were on the right. And, anybody on the left will tell you that, oh, nobody. So I don't know, kind of those double digits. I wondered if that was like the silent majority or the silent minority on the left. I don't know. But I do think that his main appeal to people was his anti-vaccine stance and a couple of other things. But who is that going to appeal to the most? That's going to appeal to libertarians and people on the right. So yeah, I do think that if he's going to pull votes from anywhere, it's going to be from Trump people or from, really people who are anti-vaccine. And it's a much smaller segment who are also anti-Trump.
So this is like SM77 in the comments says, anecdotal here, but if we're going to be using anecdotal data because we don't have good data yet, and there will be polling that will be done to help confirm these biases or to tell us we were completely wrong on this one. But my supposition is that if he were to take from Trump supporters, it would be the type of Trump supporters who did not like Donald Trump's stance on the vaccines, for example. That probably would make the most sense, right?
Right. And I do think that I don't know how much of a role it will play, but there are some people who have been unhappy with Trump's move to the left as he's come out this time around. Because not only has he kind of doubled down on the vaccine rhetoric and his what he considers an accomplishment there, but also on his stance on abortion, which is not popular with a lot of people. It's been fascinating to me to see how many people are choosing to ignore that among his base of supporters. But that's a lot. So many voters, especially are single issue voters on that issue. But I do think that when it comes that in terms of what people are prioritizing for issues for a long time, before Roe v. Wade was overturned, there were a ton of single issue voters on abortion on the right. When you talk to people now, abortion almost never gets brought up. I mean, making phone calls, knocking on doors, very, very, like incredibly few people bring up abortion. It's all about, it's about the economy, which is why I think Trump has the appeal that he has, is because the economy was what people remember as being good under Trump.
And I think that people want that back. I certainly do, right? I certainly, while there are lots of things that maybe I think that Donald Trump could improve on, and you and I have, piddling disagreements with him on trade policy or this or that, most American people do not like seeing going to the grocery store and getting a tiny bag of groceries and it's $150. We're all struggling under this. The housing market is in an absolute crisis. People can't even buy cars, right? Have you looked at the price of vehicles, by the way? It is an absolute... It's a nightmare. Right? Yeah. Like now might be the worst time to buy a vehicle that I've ever seen in my lifetime. And it's not to say that the president can fix all those things, but I can tell you this, that it's sort of like the mindset of when it came to immigration. Do you remember when Donald Trump got elected, that immediately the immigration numbers went down without him ever doing anything? It's like, well, it reminds me of that old Jimmy Carter quote. What we're suffering to hear from now is a crisis of confidence, right? And to some extent, he was right, right? That like to some extent, a part of the economy dwells on our hopes and dreams or our belief in the future. I mean, that's what investing is all about. If you think that investment isn't going to pay off in the future, you don't make an investment now. People are probably waiting to see what happens with next year's election before they go and decide to invest in oil or gas or different things like that, because they know Biden and the Democrats are hostile to the economy, and they'd be right, wouldn't they?
Well, and the thing is, I mentioned this in the chat kind of early on in the show, is that I do think that Trump's biggest Achilles heel is the people that he surrounds himself with, is his judgment in that. And it's not historically been good. He's had a lot of, major missteps where things could have been much better. And the problem is that so much of what he did was by executive order that it was easy for Biden to come in and just undo it with the stroke of a pen. And that is what concerns me with Trump, is that I've not seen anything to suggest that his judgment in his advisors has improved. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, now he knows who the bad characters are. Now he knows who's really in the swamp, because he had 4 years to figure that out. And so now he'll learn, and he's got that experience under his belt. So when he goes back in, he won't make those same mistakes. And I'm sorry, but I have not seen any evidence of him using better judgment in, the last 2 or 3 years, just in choices that he makes with regard to, his legal strategy or the things that he says or, his actions. I mean, he doesn't seem to choose good lawyers. I don't know.
No, but there aren't many good lawyers left to be able to defend him, which really leads us to...
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, the next question in here is that, can Donald Trump snatch victory from the jaws of defeat or vice versa, right? But let me briefly reset for those who might just be tuning into the Wake Up America show live right now. Glad to have you. I'm Austin Peterson. Make sure that you click like and subscribe to the channel. I'm speaking to Camelia Peterson. She joins us every Tuesday and Thursday here on the show at 8 a.m. Central Time. So if you like Camelia and you want to see her again, you can see her Tuesdays and Thursdays here on the Wake Up America show. We do recommend you watch the entire show, of course. But if you've got a special, I don't know, like a lot of people have crushes on CJ. So if you've got some kind of weird crush on Camelia for some reason, that would be weird. Somebody, for example, Ilmerica over in the chat says, sorry, just being honest, I'm only 35, but I like older women. There you go. So see.
Oh, wait. I'm not sure that's a compliment.
They were asking if Camelia was single earlier. So I think I'll let Camelia answer that. Camelia?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There you go. So you can hit her up, slide into the DMs at Rare Camelia, if you will. All right. So she does like men with a big vocab, big, extremely large vocab, if you know what I mean, guys. No, actually, I mean that literally, not metaphorically. Camelia, the Trump campaign, I mean, it looks like he's going to sail to an easy victory in the primary. Who knows? Anything could happen. Like, maybe he has a heart attack and dies. So maybe, and that would change everything. So we can't say for sure. But assuming he becomes the Republican presidential nominee and we have a rematch of Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, I kind of agree with, who was it that we heard recently who was saying that things aren't the same as they were 4 years ago, that people can forget, right? People can long for the old days. I don't remember who it was that said that, but it really rang true to me that it's quite possible that the American people might turn around and hand the presidency back to Trump just because they're so sick of Bidenomics.
Maybe. I think that you're right. We have short memories. But I do wonder, when it really comes down to it, I think what will overwhelm everything else is probably the most negative aspect of our culture and politics today is the tribalistic aspect. And I think that people turn out to vote against someone, not for someone. And that is why there's real concern about Trump losing even to Biden, is not because Biden is, a decent candidate by any stretch of the imagination, but it's because the people that support him hate Donald Trump so much that they will turn out specifically to vote against him. So I really think that's the bigger factor. Now, I'm also, I'm not really convinced it's going to be Joe Biden. It's so hard to fathom that he's going to make it through another year. I mean, maybe they'll keep him propped up on pills. I don't know. But the man is just, he's failing physically and mentally. And it's obvious for the world to see. And I can't imagine that it'll be. So, do we get a Gavin Newsom and get
that
another?
Would be frightening. That would be
another
frightening.
Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was a pretty boy, but beside the point.
People thought he was cute back in the day.
I don't know what's wrong with people.
Yeah, you're just not the average person. The ladies love. He played the saxophone. Camelia, admit it. If you had a man whip out a saxophone on a date and start ripping it up like Duke Silver, right, and you would be like, okay, cute points go up when you can play an instrument like that. Am I wrong?
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
see, I knew it. See, that's the problem. That's why Gavin Newsom would probably win, because all the ladies would be voting with their vajayjays.
Well, I will not deny that. That's probably entirely true. Like, obviously not me, but there are a lot of women in the middle because when you listen to him talk, he's very persuasive. He's a good speaker. And so it would, if the Democrats are smart, honestly, I kind of think he'd be a good candidate, even with the way he's put, California in the toilet. But I don't think they'll care at that point. I don't think they'll even look at that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Biden, but I guess we'll see. We've been wrong lots of times.
Yeah, no, for sure. Camelia Peterson, anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go?
I will just say one thing's been on my mind a lot with everything that's been happening since the weekend, that it keeps coming up that, you do not have to have an opinion about everything. And interesting, right? So it just is, I think that everybody on this Israel stuff feels like they have to have an opinion and they've got to take a side. There's that tribal aspect again. And you don't have
Especially
to
love
take a
being
side.
lectured to by like the 16-year-olds on Twitter who know everything about foreign policy.
Right? If there is nothing, well, if there's one of the things that we can teach our kids is that you don't have to have something to say about everything. There's a quote that I always think about. This is like, blessed are those who have nothing to say and cannot be persuaded to say it. Because you're like, there's all this pressure, especially with social media, to have an opinion on everything. And latest hot take. And the thing is that there's no easy answers on this. There's no everything is a trade-off, and the bottom line is it comes down to self-preservation. Self-preservation trumps all. And
did you like my did you like my discussion? Did you listen to me talking about good and evil? Yes, beyond good and evil.
I did. Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I really think that like especially like our people, libertarians, like on foreign policy, like we're a bit retarded on this issue because it's always either America is at fault or we just need to stay out of it. But there's never any question of like what is an actual defense policy that would be in our own best interest. And I thought it was interesting too because I don't know if you heard me talk to Spike Cohen about this yesterday.
I did, and I love Spike. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. But here's the funny thing. He's an anarchist, right? So I said, okay, you're the head of the Israeli government right now. What do you do? But he didn't say dissolve the government, which is the anarchist position. He says he would use the tools of government to fight back and to defend the people of Israel. So, I mean, it's kind of like, which is it at some point? It's like, are we anarchists? Are we pacifists? Are we non-interventionists? Or are we warmongering statist neocons? I guess I'm having a hard time dealing with the libertarian foreign policy position, which is why I'm looking forward to talking to Jon Miltimore so I can beat him up about it.
Well, I will say in Spike's defense, in some ways, I think that one of the things that I've always liked about Spike is that he does hold to, these principles of anarchism, but at the same time, he's pragmatic about it. And when he was running as vice president a few years ago, that was one of the things that really kind of sold me in terms of when I asked him questions. He was like, let's be real, I want to do all of these things. None of these things are going to happen in my lifetime, but we have to take steps to get there. And I do think we need the Spike Cohens of the world to balance the people who want to like go on, the Nikki Haley's of the world, right? We need those people that are like, we need that push and pull to maintain a balance for people like you who are saying, yes, I recognize that there are no good sides to this and everybody's done a lot of wrong things, but at the bottom of the day, you have the right to defend yourself. And it comes down to self-preservation. And honestly, when it comes down to me, it breaks my heart to see all of those. I can't watch them. It's like, it kills me.
Can I ask you, Camelia, and the same question I asked Spike, because he gave an interesting answer, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot for the last 24 hours on the foreign policy question, divorce it from Israel and Hamas. But under the circumstances of an alien invasion, right? If like the bug planet is sending out, missiles and asteroids and invading spaceships, would you say that we would have the right to destroy their home planet from which these attacks are coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I think I never envy people who are in charge of making these decisions because it's easy to armchair quarterback these things. But
you're going to kill the innocent baby cockroaches that are being destroyed.
And the thing is like, yeah, you can try to be strategic all day long, but when you have, like Hamas is doing, when they're using people as a human shield, like you're left with no good options because you also just can't let them continue. And the bottom line is, my kids come before your kids.
Or invent the liberty. Yeah, goddamn right. My kids come before your kids. America first. I would invent a libertarian bullet that would go around the innocent civilian and would only shoot the terrorists so that we can follow the words of Murray Rothbard and never violate the NAP under any circumstances. God, shut up, retards. I'm so tired of it. Like these people, and I think that's a lot of reasons why the people don't like libertarians is because they rightfully believe that libertarians would leave us defenseless. Am I wrong?
Well, sure, because that's the rhetoric all the time. And if you're not ever talking about the realities, I mean, it's one thing to talk about the ideals, but libertarians don't talk about the reality of what is right now and how we deal with that. And I think that's something that the Mises Caucus attempted to do. And I think they were sort of on the right track in how they approach things like that. They've kind of bombed on it, no pun intended. But yeah, it's just, it's no wonder that people think those things because those are the voices that they hear.
Right. So, Camelia, this was a great conversation. I'm glad we got to get a little bit of the foreign policy, and I'm going to go argue with Jon Miltimore about this
Okay.
stuff. And
I love Jon too.
Thanks very much for coming on. We look forward to having you back again on Thursday at 8 a.m. Central Time.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks very much. All right, let me take a very brief little commercial break and remind you all that the Wake Up America show does have our very own merchandise shop at ap4libertyshop.com. You can get your awesome Don't Tread on Me shirts as well as great phone cases. We've got a bunch of Halloween items in stock right now. Just FYI, like this is like the last week. Like if you want to get your items in time for Halloween, you got to get them this week. Order today your Halloween items at ap4libertyshop.com. That's AP the number 4, ap4libertyshop.com. And when you do, you'll get a chance to, you can get 15% off if you go to the Halloween collection and you use the code Skull and Bones. So use the code Skull and Bones to get yourself an awesome No Lives Matter shirt. Check it out over there. There we go. All right, I had that mess up. No Lives Matter shirt at ap4libertyshop.com. Them selling like hotcakes. Somebody bought our first pair of Gadsden flag shoes. Well, they're called like Venom Viper sneakers, I think. But yeah, we've got all kinds of great stuff at ap4libertyshop.com. Get 15% off the Halloween collection using code Skull and Bones. All right, we're going to go to commercial break very briefly. Don't leave. I'm going to go get Jon Miltimore and I'm going to beat him up. We're going to have a nice little debate, a libertarian debate about foreign policy when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. It was 1946. A battle was fought, not overseas, but right here on American soil. The Battle of Athens, an intense struggle against election fraud and for the rights promised by our founding fathers. Driven by the Second Amendment, ordinary citizens stood tall and fought back. Help us expose this momentous battle of integrity and bravery. Your support can make a difference. Visit givesendgo.com/bleedamerican and pledge your support, because we believe in the power of truth, the strength of unity, and the spirit of we the people. Let us not forget, we bleed American.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Petersen stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at ap4libertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit ap4libertyshop.com With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit apforlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Make sure you click that like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content that you're hearing today. We'd love to have you come back and join us every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central. And could we just give a big ups to rumble.com for featuring us on the front page again today? They've been hooking us up big time with all of the support, and we're grateful to them. So when you click like and you subscribe here, you're also supporting rumble.com. And if you become a monthly subscriber to the Wake Up America show, then a portion of those revenue proceeds go to Rumble as well. So support the Wake Up America show, support Rumble, and support freedom by becoming a monthly supporter today. Help us to spread the word of economic freedom and personal liberty. All right, well, the great libertarian debate, the foreign policy debate, it's one that you'd think, oh, well, we know what the libertarian position on this is going to be. It's either going to be that it's America's fault, or America should just stay out of it. But what do you do when you're actually attacked? What is the kind of response that you could say would actually coincide with the principles of don't tread on me? What the hell does come and take it even mean if it doesn't mean that at some point in time, every normal man must be tempted to spit on his hands, hoist the black flag, and begin slitting throats? Joining us now to discuss is a fellow liberty lover as well, Jon Miltimore, who gave a little smile with that quote. John, good morning. Nice to see you.
Hey, good morning, AP. And by the way, I'm a Rumble shareholder, so I love seeing what Rumble's doing, and great to see they got you on the front page today.
Absolutely. And we love to see it because earlier we were dealing with thousands of people here. We still got 740 people, amazing, beautiful people watching us right now, which is like a month and a half ago, I would have been like pooping my pants seeing these kinds of numbers. My life has certainly changed dramatically for the better thanks to rumble.com. So no, I won't do that. But I am grateful to them because I do see them as the free speech platform for people like ourselves. And I do look forward to hopefully seeing them be as successful as they're helping to make me be. All right, so I'm currently being angrily assaulted by mostly anarchists on Twitter right now. I say assaulted, but it's a war of words, right? Hopefully it doesn't escalate to a hot war in the background of the problem of the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And so this question is the one that they're really angry with me about. And John, don't be shy to disagree with me and disagree with me vehemently and loudly. But my understanding is that if someone starts a war against you, like let's say Canada started a war against the United States, for example, and created tons of property damage, right? We lose billions of dollars. They destroy infrastructure, and they've incurred on our territory. They've raped our women. They've killed our children. It's been a horrible, bloody conflict. But finally, we invade, and we chop off Justin Trudeau's head and we throw it in the Manitoba. Is it justified to then perhaps annex Alberta, for example, as a recompensation for the misdeeds of the evil villains to the north? Right? Is it justifiable in any libertarian sense to say, okay, well, you destroyed our property, you destroyed our country, you killed thousands to hundreds of thousands of Americans. We're just going to take this as a recompensation. Is there any libertarian argument for something like that?
Oh, there probably is. I'm not sure it's a real sound one. And I guess I'll speak more to the pragmatic point on that. The history of reparations is pretty disastrous, right? Like when you have powers, history is filled with war. And we've seen, the last 100 years, especially where, when the country that loses a war are forced to pay all these reparations and to make amends and stuff. Those things did more to perpetuate conflict than to resolve conflict. So I don't think that's a smart policy.
So should Columbus have minded his own business, and should Britain have not colonized the United States?
Yeah, I think there you're dealing with one country that's a nation state and one country that was, like one that is not a country, right? And so I think that comparison is much different. It wasn't like Columbus was sailing to Italy, right? And saying, okay, we're gonna take this. Italy, we had city states and the like at the time. And I guess it would have made sense for him to go to Italy anyway, of course. It wasn't like he went to, we'll say England, okay, and set up over there. What you had was a vast continent that was, much of it was unclaimed, right? There were people here, but
Manifest Destiny, the pioneers spreading out across the continent, that was the problem.
And I'm not even sure it's a problem. What you had were, kind of a clash of cultures. I think people, really before nation states got involved, you had settlers and Native Americans that got along mostly got along for a long time. They traded together. They worked peacefully together. It was only later on, I think, where I'm not going to, have all rose colors. There was some conflicts. Yeah, there was conflicts, right? Like anytime you're going to have different people together. But if you look at the great bloody chapters of that history, it was when the state was involved, not when we just had settlers and Native Americans involved. So I think there's a difference there, and I think there's actually a lesson there as well. But yeah, what's going on in the Middle East right now is a mess, and partly it reminds me, like, the first casualty of war is truth. I am simply trying to figure out what's going on. I was on about 90 minutes this morning trying to get actual facts on this. And the facts themselves change depend on what news you're reading. Okay. And that's very troubling when you see that. But this is not a typical conflict. There is more politics in this conflict than anything in the world. And I think you can make some clear, you can draw some clear facts that happen. And I think, like part of this goes back to what Hamas is. Hamas is not, if you look, the people that attack, they're not soldiers, right? And you see these massive civilian death tolls all the time. And one reason, like, you're like, because Hamas does not use soldiers. They're all civilians, even people carrying guns. And the Geneva Convention does treat people like that differently. Like if you are committing acts of war but you're not doing it in a uniform, you're going to be treated differently. And I think that there's a reason for that, even, right? Because even when the Geneva Convention was written, they understood, like, war is bad enough, but there's a new dimension of chaos introduced when you have combatants that are not acting as soldiers but are terrorists, and we saw some of that. I think some, like, if you read these other sites, Hamas was just attacking military bases and things like this. And maybe some obviously were, but then you had the attack at the rock concert where you had just civilians being massacred by people with AK-47s and artillery and things. And that is going to make this conflict much worse. It's already a bad situation. I fear it's going to escalate.
I agree with you here. But John, if you have a beehive or a wasp nest near your house, right? Not all of the wasps in the wasp nest are going to attack you. Not all the hornets are going to attack you. Some of the hornets are just innocent maggots. Some of the hornets are worker bees, or some of the bees are just worker bees, right? And they're not the ones that are going to go out there and attack you. But would you leave the wasp nest by your house where your kids can play? Would you leave the hornet's nest there? At some point you have to say to yourself, we can't live peacefully with a culture that is dedicated to our destruction. You're going to have to move over there, right? You're going to have to go somewhere else because you've proven time and time again that you cannot be trusted with these weapons of war, if you will. I mean, so what I'm trying to do in making an analogy comparing, Christopher Columbus to, or the Native Americans, the American pioneers, the Native American colonization and things like that, is that I would completely understand if Israel said, sorry, Gaza Strip can't be there anymore. That's a revocation of property rights to an extent. But I mean, at some point in time, if you just like the American pioneers, they had to suffer attack after wave of attack. Not to say that they didn't initiate it as well, but I mean, at some point, you got to agree with Ayn Rand that you're going to look after your own people, and you're going to make the decisions that are necessary in order to protect your own people. Because beyond good and evil, John, beyond this concept of you're killing this many babies, oh, they killed this many more babies, we're really just talking about two groups that are in a conflict and for an existential crisis for their own survival. But if it's going to be the Americans versus the Native Americans, I'm going to choose the Americans every time. That's my culture, that's my people, that's me, and that's me protecting my own. But whatever lofty principles we want to have are somewhat of a luxury when people are in an existential conflict. Am I wrong?
I think you look at this situation, you go back to 2005, Israel stopped policing Gaza. And I think most people in Israel today would tell you that's a mistake. They did it because they thought we could live peacefully next to each other. That hasn't happened. Things have actually gotten, I think probably a lot worse, at least on some level since then. It's a fair question to ask, can these two people live together? The answer, though, the Palestinians have kind of reached that same conclusion, like we cannot live with the Israelis over here, right? So they've made that decision. Israel might make that same conclusion, right? And I will say that's Israel's choice. Like that's how these countries decide to live together. That's going to be on them, and I think it's going to be challenging. I think it's going to be bloody. The problem is now you have the international. Let's face it, America is very much in this fight. And I think that's what, the United States, should be thinking about. Why are we entangled in all of these things around the globe? And I think that's the libertarian question. Like, we need to acknowledge we are an empire. This was not how it was supposed to be. George Washington wrote about this in his farewell address, and he warned us. What was going on when he wrote his farewell address at the time? The French Revolution. And everyone was talking about what we should do, which side we should pick on. The monarchy just got their heads lopped off. You want to talk about barbarity? French Revolution had plenty of it. And Washington said, no, that's not our fight. We're not, that's not why we're here. We're not supposed to be getting involved in those things. When others, more idealistic, maybe like Jefferson, really wanted to get involved. Jefferson wanted to get involved in the wrong side, even. Like he was really in favor of the Jacobins. So I think, Israel,
but it's wrong to say that like they didn't envision an empire, because even if what George Washington, taking that into account, it's not Donald Trump, God, Thomas Jefferson literally said that he envisioned the United States to be an empire of liberty. He used those specific words. And he also created the U.S. Navy in order for us to be able to defend against the empires of the world. I mean, do we really want to live in a world where we have to deal with multilateral relations do you want to live in a world, John, where we're on an equal playing ground, where Russia and China have the same kind of military power that the United States has? Do you want to live in that world?
I think that would make our world a better world. Like I really think that there's.
You think that Russia and China being on a military par with the United States would make a better world?
For us, because here's the thing. Here's what we've realized. Like when we construct these massive military apparatus, if we look, this is what has crushed liberty. If you look, it is our involvement in international affairs. War is the health of the state. And as we build, there was a reason, you're right that Jefferson, the founders weren't a monolith, and Jefferson was one of the more grandiose, idealistic ones. But a lot of them did not even want a standing army, and it was for good reason. They saw that army being employed in all these ways that were going to be harmful to liberty.
He also expanded the
and
United
so
States
I
via
think
the
we should
Louisiana Purchase. He also disobeyed the Constitution and bought the land.
That's
to
my point.
expand the United
Jefferson really
States.
didn't follow the principles of liberty when it came in this respect. Others were wiser
But
than
here's the thing.
Jefferson.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Would it have been so you think it was the wrong thing for Jefferson to buy the Louisiana Purchase?
For the aspect of liberty, sure, yeah, absolutely. This is the whole the whole.
Me. You've got to be kidding me. You're seriously going to argue against the Louisiana Purchase?
I think if you look, this whole notion of manifest destiny that was going to spread across the continent, it did serious harm to our republic because the more it grew, the more political problems it created. And
the Louisiana Purchase created more problems.
If you look at why we became,
you cannot be arguing that the United States should have stopped at the initial colonial borders.
I'm saying if we wanted to remain faithful to the principles that their country is founded on, we should not have been so aggressively expanding across this country. And
really,
yeah, no, I think if you look at history, if you look at it, one of the reasons our liberty fell, one of the reasons that we had this massive civil war was because we did those things. Like there's no civil war. There's no. It is the bloodiest conflict in U.S. history. There's no American Civil War probably if we don't sit there. If we don't expand westward like we did.
You can't seriously believe that. There's no.
I've thought about this a lot, and I think it was a mistake. I wouldn't even say a mistake. I think in one sense, I recognized it was inevitable. We were a continental power. We had the power to do this, and it was sort of, there was some force pushing us in that direction, I think. But I think what happened during that period is when we became from United States small caps to United States to one big country. And it put us on a path toward empire. And I think we're here now, and we have now the burden of empire. And it is what has transformed us from a republic into an empire in all the ways that have really done harm to liberty here at home.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there, John. Let me just reset. For those who might be just tuning in live, I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show. Make sure you click like and subscribe. I'm speaking to Jon Miltimore, the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. We're talking a little bit about libertarian foreign policy and the background of the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and we're comparing it to, anti-colonialist movements. You would fit in well with those anti-colonialist New Yorkers who are complaining about the Free Palestine people here, John, with these views, because the problem is that we don't live in some perfect world where if we just lay down our arms, lay down our guns, and give the Chinese and the Chinese the ability to catch up with us militarily, and Russia to catch up with us militarily, that they're not going to use that to take advantage of us and to put us in their place.
How are they going to take advantage of us?
We live in a world where aggressive communist states that want to subjugate the rest of the world would do so if they had the power and authority to do so. Here's my thing. If you got a guy who tells you, for example, that I'm going to kill you, right? I'm going to go get a gun and I'm going to kill you, right? I know a lot of libertarians would say, oh, well, it's just harsh words and all that kind of stuff. But would you at least crip him as he runs away? I mean, would you at least kind of give him a little shove or something like that before he goes to get the gun to kill you? I mean, at some point, where does "Don't Tread on Me" come on board? When does the libertarian hoist the black flag and begin slitting throats, John?
Well, I certainly not at this point. I mean, if you look, it is the United States. We're the ones with military bases all over the world. China's not over in our hemisphere. Russia's not in our hemisphere, right? We are the ones over there. And here's what happens. I do think we're a more benevolent country and a better country than China or Russia. But all of these things, that having bases all across the country, what happens is you have interests now that you need to protect. And if you look, it is defending this empire, for better or worse, that has gotten us in all these entanglements. And as that has happened, our responsibilities across the world grow and grow. And you get now these insane things that happen, like we give Iran $500 million in cash on pallets because we're trying to buy peace in these different, like, this is tribute. It's a different kind of tribute. This is not what America was supposed to be. And I think we're the ones that our budget on the military is 10 times what Russia's is. It's not even close. We have the biggest stick, right? There's no question about it. And we know it. And we're the kid. Not what does that make us? It makes us the schoolyard bully that when people need help, they come to us. Okay, they come to us and they say,
John,
"Hey, you need to fix this problem."
John,
that's not what we're supposed to do.
John, we pay a lot of taxpayer dollars for national defense. Too much money in national defense. A lot of it's wasted. Way too much. We can agree on that. However, if I run a business and I'm bringing oil to the United States, for example, right, and I've got to go through the Strait of Hormuz, is it reasonable to expect that my U.S. taxpayer dollars might help pay for a frigate to defend my merchant shipping so as I don't have to worry about the types of attacks that the Iranians will frequently use against merchant shipping through the Strait of Hormuz?
What was the solution to this before we had nation states that were...
Thomas Jefferson created the U.S. Navy constitutionally through the proper laws of this country in order to protect American merchant shipping from British raids, and specifically from pirate raids, the Tripolitan pirates, and that is a legitimate, lawful, constitutional exercise of American authority, at least if you believe in the Constitution. So that is historically what the United States has done. Protected American merchant shipping and Americans from being enslaved or attacked overseas.
My question is very simple. What were merchants doing before we had a nation state powerful enough to protect them in their
getting hijacked by...
They were armed themselves. They had their own cannons. They were able to protect themselves. I think that's a better solution than having the U.S. Navy trolling around all over the globe, is that we have merchants that are capable of protecting themselves. To me, that's a great solution. It's a very libertarian one.
It's not a free market solution to some extent, because you're really talking about expanding or contracting the American economy, because Americans are not going to be able to do business overseas in lots of different countries because they can't there's no way to invest in many of these places if they can't get their products or their goods and services to market. I don't personally see a problem with American soldiers standing guard nearby with a rifle ready to go if somebody were to attack American merchant shipping overseas, because that contributes to the flow of the American free market capitalist economic system. Without the ability to engage in international trade, then the American economy contracts by like 75%, John.
Like I said, this idea that trade is going to disappear if we don't have military bases all over is really not an argument I buy. And I think what you would have are merchants that would be protecting their own interests themselves. This idea that you need a global empire to facilitate trade, it kind of runs counter to if you look at history. Like trade was able to thrive even during the bloodiest wars in history, and there was these things were it's the invisible hand at work. Like nations are still able to prosper and trade together, even when there's conflicts abroad. And what I think is that the state is what breeds these conflicts. And I'm not naive enough to think that we're going to have peace overnight if the U.S. government just picks up its tents and goes home. There's still going to be conflicts abroad. But what we won't have the temptation to go and beat down every excursion that draws the attention of media.
We won't have the capability. So if Americans get kidnapped overseas and pressed into slavery, then it's just, oh well, shouldn't have been there. That's a risk that you take with your own.
But there
life.
are responses that are short of full-blown military responses. Like, right, we have teams that are capable of going and addressing situations. Not
under an American military that's shrunk by like 75%. Here's what I'm ultimately trying to get you to say or to admit. At some point, at some level, there is a legitimate, lawful, and constitutional authority to use the U.S. military in defense of the lives of American citizens? Is there not?
I'd be very careful about that. No, like there's U.S. citizens all over the world, and what you have are
there is no legitimate, lawful, constitutional, proper, checks and
I get
balances.
maybe I'm unclear on the question.
Presidential.
If you're saying that we have a responsibility to go to war whenever a U.S. citizen is killed somewhere, I'd say absolutely not.
I'm talking about, like, for example, Iranian hostages. Right? They take American hostage. They've got 75 American citizens hostage in Iran, and they're demanding billions of dollars from us that we don't have to pay. Right? And you're telling me that, like, a military operation. Now, we've had this before and it didn't go well, but I mean, it's not to say that it isn't the right thing to do. I'm saying that at some point there is like a proper and legitimate use of force in order to defend American citizens.
Of course,
right?
Like, if we want to, if there are American citizens that are alive, and I think going and trying to protect them and to retrieve them is absolutely a justified use of force.
Okay, so that's step one. Okay, that's step one. At least there is some lawful, legitimate, constitutional use of force that you would say is necessary and proper. Okay, so over and above and beyond that, you save a lot of lives, you save a lot of time, rather than once the fox gets into the hen house, it's too late. But if you have the guard waiting outside the hen house ready to go, then you make sure that the fox doesn't enter the hen house in the first place. So what I'm saying is,
it sounds like you're talking about preemptive strikes.
Preemptive strike comes before something. In other words, if
before the fox gets in the hen house.
Yeah, if you're going to attack me, then I'm going to get you first. Yeah, preemptive strike means before something happens, right? So you were getting ready to attack me, so I attacked you. I had an argument with an anarchist once who was saying that under no circumstances should, it's America's fault that North Korea is saber rattling and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, all right, well, if Kim Jong-un puts a nuclear missile on the launch pad, can we blow it up? No, absolutely not. I'm like, okay, what if they start the countdown sequence? No. Okay, what if they actually launch the missile and it's aimed towards Los Angeles and the missile has been fired? Can we then blow? Yeah, then you can blow the missile out of the air. And it's like, with what Air Force, you fuck? Like, what money was that? We didn't have enough money to appropriate it because your anarchist ass didn't want us to do it because taxation is theft. How can we possibly build the kind of defense that's necessary to fight against intercontinental ballistic missiles when you defunded the nuclear triad? We don't have nuclear submarines and ICBMs and B-2 bombers anymore because you took away the ability for us to be able to do that. We can't shoot the missile out of the air without guided laser bombs and without the proper jets that are necessary to do something like that. We can't do that without the proper national defense that's necessary to prevent those kinds of attacks. At some point in time, what I'm saying here is that you've got to have the big bomb ready to go in case you need to use it, right? You've got to have a military and a national defense and be willing to use it if it's necessary. Am I wrong, John?
No, I don't think there's anything. I wouldn't be getting rid of our intercontinental ballistic missiles or anything like that. I think they're good to have. I do think nuclear capability made these questions much more difficult to answer from a libertarian perspective. And we can talk about like a lot of hypothetical scenarios. What I think the problem is, like there's you split hairs here, but and I don't mean you, but people do, between anti-aggression and anti-war. And at one time I would have said like, oh, I'm anti-aggression, but not anti-war. I think we need to be, as libertarians, anti-war as well, because I think we forget how evil war is. War is the most destructive force on the planet. And I'm not saying there aren't scenarios when we should engage in it. There are, and we discussed some of them. But if we're looking right now, war is dehumanizing. We're seeing it here. We're seeing this conflict bring out the worst in people. And we haven't even really started yet. I know it sounds a lot when you hear, 700 Palestinians or 900 Israelis. Those numbers they're horrifying, right? There's something, a revulsion that boils up within us. This has barely started. And look at what is happening here. Look at what this war is doing to people. War is hell. And we need to remember that. We have to look at, instead of trying to think of like solutions where we could probably use war, and we need to remember that no, there are no winners here. And what I want, Israel has the opportunity to learn from the US's 9/11 response, because everybody's comparing this event to 9/11. Who looks back and thinks our response was a really good and effective one? I don't. I think what we did, our responses were crazy, and we built our own security state here, in our own intelligence state, and all these things that we did, I think were very ineffective. But worse, they eroded liberty at home, and I don't want the people of Israel to make that same mistake. I do see that. Hey, look, the leaders of Hamas who ordered this attack, Israel has every right to go and say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen again. And they can take action.
We're running out of time, Jon Miltimore. At some point, I think we have to say that "don't tread on me." We have to define what "don't tread on me" means, right? We have to be willing. Listen, if we don't learn the art of war, our enemies, they know it. They're going to use it against us. We've got to know how to fight. We've got to learn the techniques of strategies of war. Jon Miltimore, is there anything else you want to share before we let you go? Maybe plug your Substack real quick. Thanks for the debate, by the way. Spirited.
Yeah,
it's fun.
I enjoyed it.
I'm playing devil's advocate a lot too, and it's it's fun.
I might be doing some of that as well. No, check out my content. It's The Take on Substack, and check out all our content on fee.org.
Appreciate that very much. All right, Jon Miltimore, have a good one. All right. See you later. Thank you very much. All right, the show is supposed to end right now. However, I have a couple of videos that I wanted to play for you, which I think really illustrate my point. A couple of things. This is, and I was not prepared for this because I didn't know we were not going to get this much time. But give me like 2 seconds, guys. I'm going to pull up. I have these fight videos. I'm going to show you what not to do. These are real fights. Now, these are individual fights. These are not war. However, I will make them analogous for reasons that I will explain in just a moment. If you have to go, I understand. I am going to have to turn us off over on the Freedom Hub app so we don't bother anybody else. But we are going to go into overtime here for about 5 minutes. Give me just a moment to get you all set up. I got to turn off the Freedom Hub app. There we go. So I don't interrupt anyone else, and get ourselves ready over on Twitter. Here we go. This is going to be an example of what not to do in a fight. Hold on one sec. The first one will be what not to do in a fight. And the second one is what you should do in a fight. Let me get the first clip. It's ready to go. Yeah, second clip, ready to go. Boomity, 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 boomity. Here we go. And I'm going to make a nice little analogy, and then we'll tidy up and we'll say goodbye. Are you guys okay with us sticking around just another extra minute? Okay, here we go. Here's an example of what not to do in a fight. Here we go. Okay, so we've got some kind of altercation happening here in the street. We've got the man and his wife here, and then we got some guy with a mask screaming at him. I'm inclined to not like the guy in the mask because he's wearing a mask. Right? Fake and gay. Right, now his wife is the one making the biggest mistakes here, right? You should be de-escalating. But my problem is that, look, so she grabs the arm of her husband. Now, I have taught my wife, look at that. Grabs his arms, kind of pulls him behind his back. Okay. Some kind of altercation. Third party steps in. I mean, here we have... I'm going to guess that the guy in the mask is the bad guy. Here we go. They're fighting. Now his wife decides that she's going to come in, and what is she doing? She's grabbing her husband from behind. This is like what the United States does and the international community does to Israel. When Israel's trying to defend itself, they come in, they're grabbing her hand behind, grabbing his hands, like the guy's trying to put a beat down, and his woman's coming in here. Look at this. She's getting in his face. Terrible wife. He doesn't want to take no shit from his wife, which I completely understand. But don't do this in a fight. All right? So here's Hamas. Here's the Hamas terrorists, if you will. Here's Israel. And here's like liberal pussies and libertarian weenies, anarchist, pacifist pussies that are like, no. We've got the clear threat here. Obviously, the smartest thing to do is to get away, right? Don't get into street fights. But if you do, here's his wife. Look, he pushes his wife away. Hilarious. Right? And his wife, here's the thing. I don't care if I'm in the wrong. All right? And I tell my wife and I, we talk about this all the time because we train self-defense. Don't hold my hands behind my back, right? You could get me stabbed. You ever see West Side Story when Riff gets stabbed because Tony is like, no, Riff, don't kill Bernardo. And then like Riff comes and gets stabbed. And I played this character in the show in college, that's how I know. So Riff gets stabbed and then he turns around and he looks at his best friend Tony as he pulls the knife out and drops it and is like, A2 Brute, you come on, Tony. You held my hands behind my back. You got your best friend killed. All right, that's what happens. Don't get your husband killed. Look at it. She's grabbing his hands. Like, don't grab, even if you think your husband's wrong, right? Don't grab your husband or your boyfriend's hands and pull them behind their back. Don't pull my hands and put them behind my back when I'm in an altercation, okay? Don't get into altercations, obviously. But once the battle is engaged, right? Once the battle is engaged, don't tell Israel to lay down their arms in a ceasefire and call for peace. Don't get in between me and the bad guys or the enemies. Watch me pull off my sweet-ass karate moves like this dude in a street fight. Be this guy in the street fight. Watch this shit. This is... Watch this. Leg kick 1. Leg kick 2. Leg kick 3. This guy is questioning his decision. Leg kick 4. Leg kick 5. Leg kick 6. Punch, and the fight is over. God bless him. Can some libertarians out there, please, for the love of God, learn how to fight? Don't be the wife holding people's hands behind their back once the battle's engaged. Move, bitch. Get out the way. Get out the way, bitch. Get out the way. One more time, shall we, before we go? There we go. Nice. Punch. Here we go. Mawashigeri. Zuki, and that's the end of the fight. And there went Hamas, and it's all over. And now we can have peace. Losers always complain about doing their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen. Listen, if it's a fight and it's you or me, it's going to be you. It's not going to be me. Learn how to fight. For the love of God, take some training, some martial arts classes, pick up a gun, learn how to defend yourself, okay? Right? You don't want to be in a fight. Avoid fighting if at all possible. Karate is for defense only. But when the time comes and you must hoist the black flag, do you know where to slit the throat? We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show. If God loves you, you'll click that like button and subscribe to the channel. Join us every Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow morning with Judge Andrew Napolitano at 8 a.m. Central Time on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
From now on, it's going to be America first, okay? America first.
In the vast expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to Wake Up America, for memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every $1 we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.